I worked as a bodyguard for a big-time gangster. When the boss's son came back from overseas, he stared at me in a daze. The boss asked, "You two know each other?" I said, "Not really." That night, Feng Cheng cornered me for a kiss, pulling up my shirt. "Not really?" "Bro, I know your body better than my own." I leaned against the wall, a cigarette dangling from my lips, letting him press me down. It had been 5 years since we last saw each other. He'd grown taller, filled out a lot more. The little punk wouldn't stop groping me, his hands creeping lower and lower. Any further, and there'd be trouble. I narrowed my eyes, grabbed his wandering hand, and warned him in a low voice. Enough. Feng Cheng didn't resist. He just pressed his palm against my groin, leaning his head on my shoulder with a smirk. "Bro, your body says you missed me a lot." His tone was so damn smug, like he was daring me to stop him. I taught him to be like that. I shoved his hand away, casually buckled my belt, and said, "Doesn't matter who's touching me. It all feels good." Then I grabbed his face, looked him over. Still as beautiful as ever. That face could make me lose my mind. But I'd learned my lesson once. If I fell for him again, I'd be a fool. I gave his cheek a light pat and said with a chuckle, "You're nothing special." Once bitten, twice shy, Feng Cheng was that snake. When I first met him, he was 18, wearing a crisp white shirt and blue school uniform, looking clean and sharp. He played drums in a band at the bar, surrounded by flashy, scandalous people, but he stood out the most. That mix of innocence and mischief was ridiculously captivating. Back then, I had just gotten out of prison and was working security at the bar. 7 fights in one night, all because of him. All that punk had to do was toss a ring or bracelet off the stage, and someone would start a brawl. One time, after stirring things up and leaving, a few drunks cornered him on the way home. It happened to be when I was cutting through an alley, and I saved his sorry ass. His shirt collar was ripped open, and he'd taken a slap to the face. He leaned against the wall, cheering me on as I fought off the drunks. I remember thinking, how is this brat such a damn flirt? I took down those 2 drunks, and Feng Cheng sauntered over, casually kicking one of them between the legs. "Still want to mess with me, huh?" The guy howled in pain. I winced, pulled Feng Cheng back, and said, "That's enough." He immediately switched to a sweet smile. "Thanks, bro. I owe you one." Then he turned and gave the other guy a kick, sticking out his tongue at me. 1 each for fairness. I laughed in exasperation and walked off. No point getting involved any further, but Feng Cheng followed me all the way to my building. "Bro, I've got nowhere to go. You saved me. Might as well take me in for the night." I asked where his parents were. "Dead," he said. Looking at that beautiful face, my heart softened a bit. I took him in, and not just into my apartment. Feng Cheng had a knack for seduction. He trapped me in the bathroom and asked, "Bro, everyone wants to fool around with me. Don't you?" Then he tilted his head up and kissed my chin. "I'm not giving myself to them. I'm only giving myself to you." Who could resist that? Truth be told, the first time I saw him on stage at the bar, I had already undressed him in my mind. Now he was right in front of me, saying things like that. I couldn't hold back. Later in bed, Feng Cheng lay on top of me and said he was scared it would hurt. I felt bad for him being so young, so I let him take control. But once you indulge someone, there's always a next time. He pushed his limits. Once he pinned me in the stairwell at the bar, bit the back of my neck, and whispered, "Don't let anyone hear." The bar was loud, no way anyone could hear us. But Feng Cheng liked it that way. He thought it was thrilling, and I didn't mind humoring him. A couple times I managed to pull away, but the more we slept together, the more feelings got involved. When I realized I was catching feelings, I told him, "Either we start dating, or we end this." Feng Cheng smiled sweetly and said, "Bro, we've always been dating. I gave you my first time. You're not seriously thinking of breaking up, are you?" Back then he was 18, repeating his senior year. He didn't think about the future, but I had to. I had a record. My life was already screwed, but Feng Cheng's future was wide open. I couldn't drag him down, let him waste away in the streets with me. I started keeping him in line, telling him to focus on his studies. He was obedient, stopped messing around, and put his all into preparing for college entrance exams. To help him concentrate, I quit my bar job, cooked 3 meals a day for him, and supported him through the exams. At that point, I gave him my heart, left nothing for myself. But Feng Cheng lied to me. At first, when an old coworker said they saw him at a fancy club, I didn't believe it. Then I saw him myself, hanging out with a group of rich kids at the club. Following behind them, I overheard their conversation. "Hey, you're still not tired of that guy who brings you food? Shouldn't you just cut him off? He's probably just supporting you so you can take your exams." Another chimed in, does our young Master Feng really need to take exams? He's heading abroad in July anyway. Feng Xiao, how's that muscle guy in bed? Is it fun? I've never tried that type before. Feng Cheng glanced at him, blew a puff of smoke from his cigarette, and said, open your mouth. Then he pressed the burning cigarette to the guy's tongue. If you can't talk properly, don't talk at all. Right then, I wanted to rush over and beat the hell out of him. Instead, I just took out my phone and called him. Feng Cheng looked at his phone but didn't answer. One of the guys asked, Feng Xiao, why aren't you picking up? He frowned, his brows and the corners of his eyes showing irritation. He said softly, he's too controlling. When the ringtone stopped, I called again. He sighed, put on a smile and answered. Hey bro, he said sweetly. That fake tone almost made me laugh. What an actor. I said, Feng Cheng, turn around. 3A sharp pain snapped me back to the present. Feng Cheng had grabbed my wrist, gripping it hard. Who touched you? He demanded. You comparing me to someone else now? Did you try out a lot of people while I was gone? His voice was soft, his eyelashes trembling slightly, as if he might cry if I said yes. I shook him off with a laugh. Not your business. Of course it's my business, he shot back, his gaze flaring red. You're mine, all mine. No one else gets to have you. What an idiot. Suddenly, the sound of something crashing came from downstairs. Then an irritated voice called out, Where's Yagi? I want Yuanyi here, right now. Tell him I'm having an attack. Get him here. It was Feng Ling, my boss Feng's younger son, also Feng Cheng's little brother. 4 years ago, Feng Ling had been abducted by their enemies, and he'd barely made it out alive. I just happened to be the one who saved him. He survived, but his legs were ruined. Because of that, Feng Ji had brought me into the family to work as their bodyguard. Maybe because I'd saved him in such a desperate situation, Feng Ling had developed a deep, almost unhealthy attachment to me. When he first came home, he needed me around 24 hours a day, or he'd become agitated and even hysterical. I shoved past Feng Cheng and rushed downstairs. By the time I reached the living room, Feng Ling had already smashed everything in sight. He was gripping the arms of his wheelchair tightly, his breathing labored and frantic. I quickly crossed the room and knelt down in front of him. Young master, I'm here now, I said softly. When Feng Ling saw me, he instantly teared up and his body relaxed. Yaigi, where were you? I couldn't find you. I had a nightmare and you weren't there. I'm here now. Don't be scared. I picked him up from the wheelchair and carried him upstairs. I'll stay with you while you sleep. Feng Cheng stood at the top of the stairs, head lowered, his back ramrod straight. As I walked past, he tugged at the hem of my shirt, his voice raspian as he called out, Ji. In my arms, Feng Ling buried his head against my shoulder, his arms tightening around my neck. I brushed off Feng Cheng's hand and kept walking upstairs. When Feng Ling finally closed his eyes, he clung tightly to my hand. Yagi, please don't leave me, okay? He pleaded stubbornly. He was younger than Feng Cheng. It wasn't hard to guess what those few words meant. It was just a child's possessiveness. I patted his head and said, I won't leave. Go to sleep. In the middle of the night, my boss Feng Ji called, telling me that Feng Cheng had gotten into trouble. He'd gone racing with their enemies in the dead of night. The other side had tampered with his car, nearly sending him off a cliff. That had escalated into a full-blown fight. I'm stuck in Lu City. I can't leave right now, Feng Ji said. Yeah, you go check it out. By the time I got to Eagle Head Mountain with my men, the place was chaos. Feng Cheng had a knife in hand, ready to jab it into young master He's eye. I swore under my breath, shouted his name, and rushed over to grab his hand. Calm down. Feng Cheng's tense muscles slowly loosened. He raised his bloodied face to look at me and said, Gee, I almost died just now. I'm just asking for one of his eyes. That's not too much, right? He smiled faintly and let go of the knife. But if you don't want me to take revenge, I won't. Bro, I'll listen to you. He looked up at me obediently, his eyes sparkling, like a little dog waiting for its master's praise. When he looked at me like that, it felt like I was his entire world, like I could bully him, break him, own him however I wanted. But it was all an act. I swallowed hard, looked away, took the knife from him, lifted him up, and pushed him behind me. I glanced around, found a steel bar, and swung it hard at the legs of that young master He before he could get up. Revenge still needs to be served. It just couldn't come from Feng Cheng's hands. The Feng family hired me to do the dirty work. I tossed a business card onto the groaning young master He. Call that number. The Feng family will cover your medical bills. Make sure you get it treated so you don't end up disabled. I tossed the steel bar aside, grabbed Feng Cheng, and left. For as soon as we got to the car, Feng Cheng pinned me down in the driver's seat. He attacked me like a rabid dog, kissing me, roughly grabbing at me until my clothes were all messed up. I tried to push him off, but that only seemed to anger him. He clamped down on my arms, his grip strong, refusing to let me fight back. A boy might have been no match for me, but a man was a different story. 5 years ago, Feng Cheng wouldn't have been able to hold me down. But now, we were evenly matched. He kissed me fiercely, babbling nonsense. I knew it. You'd never leave me. You still love me. You're mine. From my lips to my chin, down to my neck. His kisses were heavy, a bit painful, but more thrilling than anything else. Just like he said, we both knew each other's bodies so well. Damn it. If this kept going, I'd end up letting him have his way again. When his lips reached my stomach, I yanked his hair, pulled him back, and punched him. Get off! Feng Cheng licked his reddened lips and grabbed my hand, guiding it downward. Feel it, he demanded. Feel how much I missed you. Through gritted teeth, he added. I missed you so much I'm about to explode. I grabbed him by the neck and shoved him away. Quit acting like some lovesick fool, Feng Cheng. You were the one who left first. 5 back then, my indulgence of Feng Cheng was beyond absurd. Looking back now, it's laughable. That night, when Feng Cheng turned around and saw me, his face went pale in an instant. I saw his panic, his utter loss of composure. I threw my phone at him and said, Feng Cheng, I'm done. You're on your own. When I turned to leave, it felt like a gaping hole had been torn in my chest. Feng Cheng chased after me, throwing his arms around me. His hot tears fell on my neck as he begged, You heard it, didn't you? I didn't mean what I said. I wasn't avoiding coming home. I'll be good. I promise I'll be good. He was trembling with fear, pressing frantic kisses to my neck and ear. Bro, don't leave me. He had the nerve to cry, the audacity to cling to me and refuse to let go. I was the one who should have been crying. I pushed him off and said, Feng Cheng, can you just stop playing with me? I'm 28. I just want to settle down with someone for the rest of my life. I'm done playing games. Back then, I really loved him. Even knowing he was a liar, I loved him. But I couldn't let myself kneel at his feet and let him stomp all over me. I'm a human being too, damn it. But Feng Cheng wouldn't let me go. He had a knack for getting under my skin. He'd camp outside my door, playing pitiful like a stray dog. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't drive him away. He'd deliberately drink spiked drinks at the bar, purposely get taken away in front of me. He wanted me to lose it, to fight my way through hell for him, to rescue him so he could smile and kiss me. If you hadn't come, I'd have killed them all and turned myself in, he'd say. I'd shake with anger. Feng Cheng, do you really want to ruin yourself? Hot and feverish, he'd whisper into my ear, his throat trembling. If you don't care about me, I'll ruin myself. If you really don't care, then go ahead and leave me to someone else. But I couldn't walk away. I couldn't bear to see him with someone else. Feng Cheng was like an addictive drug. Once you get a taste, you can't quit. I knew he was full of lies and manipulative as hell. But still, I couldn't help but throw myself into it. It was like being possessed. 18-year-old Feng Cheng pressed me against the door, kissed down to my stomach, then knelt in front of me. With his arms wrapped around my waist, he made promises like a devout believer. Bro, I'll never leave you. Please forgive me. I gripped his hair tightly, telling myself, fine, I can't let him go. I hastily patched up the wound in my heart and told myself, I'll believe him. Just one more time. And then, just when I was at my weakest, Feng Cheng left. Without a word, he vanished. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. The promises he'd made, worthless. He was never going to change. Not in this lifetime. 6, I didn't mean it back then. Feng Cheng started to explain, his voice anxious. I cut him off. I don't want to hear it. It didn't matter anymore. When I wanted to hear his explanation, he wouldn't give it to me. Now? I didn't want it. As I straightened my clothes, I asked, I just need to know. Did you know the car had problems before you agreed to the race? Feng Cheng laughed, then nodded openly. Yeah, I knew. He knew and still got behind the wheel, gambling with his own life, baiting me. This kind of act, Feng Cheng was good at it. He loved standing on the edge of a cliff, watching me worry, watching me charge in to save him. I'd be scared to death while he stood there, smug as hell. It probably felt amazing. Just a small gesture, and he could mess with my emotions, make me run around like a dog at his beck and call. It was absolutely despicable. 5 years, and you're still playing the same old tricks. Don't you ever get tired of it, Feng Cheng? What are you trying to prove? That I still have feelings for you. I tilted my head, looking at him. Let me be clear. If it weren't for Feng Eryi's orders, I wouldn't have come tonight. Feng Cheng, you don't matter to me anymore. If you want to die, do it far away. Don't drag me into it. The smile slowly faded from Feng Cheng's face. If I'm not important, then who is? He snapped. Feng Ling, you're choosing him over me? His eyes reddened, his voice sharp and desperate. What's so great about him? He's not as good looking as me, and he's crippled. Does he satisfy you? Do you really find him attractive? Or do you just have a thing for teenagers? Shut up. I slapped him, my hand trembling with anger. Feng Ling is your brother. You can disrespect me all you want, but don't drag him down. Feng Cheng's head turned to the side, his disheveled black hair falling over his eyes. He didn't move for a long time. Finally, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said softly, Feng Ling's not my brother. He raised his head, his dark eyes cold and deep, too calm. Gee, did you give him your heart? That's mine. How could you give it to him? He's not worthy of you. I'll show you. The only one who's good enough for you is me. 7. By the time we got back to the Feng household, it was already past midnight. At 4 a.m, the sky was still pitch black, but the living room lights were on. Feng Ling was sitting there, staring blankly at the TV. When he heard me coming, he turned his head abruptly, his eyes lighting up. Yaigi, you're back. Feng Cheng followed me in, standing behind me. Feng Ling saw him and tightened his grip on his wheelchair's armrests. His expression became uneasy as he greeted Feng Cheng. Gee, Feng Cheng didn't even look at him. I walked over quickly, crouching in front of Feng Ling. Why are you up so early? Feng Ling lowered his eyes, looking a bit sad. I woke up in the middle of the night, and you weren't there. I couldn't sleep. I felt a little guilty. I had promised to stay with him, but I'd let him down. Feng Ling's eyes roamed over my face. Then he suddenly raised a hand to touch my lip. Yegi, why is your mouth swollen? The cool touch of his fingertips against my heated skin felt strange. I kissed him. Feng Cheng leaned in from behind, reaching over me to flick Feng Ling's hand away. Take another look, and you might notice his tongue is swollen too. Feng Ling pressed his lips together, staring at Feng Cheng, his face pale. Stop joking, Yagi is a man, you're a man too. How could you? I took a deep breath, resisting the urge to slam Feng Cheng's head against the wall. I reached out to Feng Ling and said, Don't listen to him. Let me take you upstairs so you can get some more rest. Before I could touch Feng Ling, Feng Cheng suddenly kicked his wheelchair a few feet away, walked over, and lifted him onto his shoulder. I'll take him upstairs to sleep, Feng Cheng said as he turned his head toward me. You've had a long night. Go get some rest. Feng Ling couldn't break free. He called out to me for help. Yagi? But I didn't move. I let Feng Cheng carry him away. Feng Ling couldn't rely on me forever. At the end of the day, I was just an outsider. 8-second Uncle Feng once hinted me, Yi, you can't take care of Feng Ling forever. Some challenges he needs to face on his own. I'd spent the past year deliberately distancing myself from Feng Ling. Last night, though, he had caused such a scene. When second uncle returned to Hangzhou, he gradually handed more responsibility over to Feng Cheng and told me, Yi, Feng Cheng tends to go overboard. If you keep an eye on him, I'll feel more at ease. Feng Cheng's actions weren't just extreme, they were downright reckless. He was too ruthless, too uncompromising, making it easy to rack up enemies. Even though the Feng family now operated legitimate businesses, most of their network had ties to organized crime. When push came to shove, things could still turn bloody. A few times Feng Cheng faced retaliation that nearly cost him his life. The worst incident left him with a knife wound to the stomach, laid up in the hospital for 3 months. After that, I went outside, smoked half a pack of cigarettes, and returned to tell him, I'm begging you, take better care of yourself. Feng Cheng, pale and sickly looking, still had the audacity to say, if you kiss me, I'll take care of myself. One kiss, and he'd agree to focus on his studies. One kiss, and he'd stop going to the bar. One kiss, and he wouldn't leave. It was all bullshit. I looked down at him and said, Feng Cheng, stop being such an idiot. Working with Feng Cheng for 6 months felt longer than 3 years. I was constantly on the move, hardly setting foot in the Feng family home. For second uncle's birthday, they hosted a grand banquet. The house was brightly lit inside, while I crouched outside in the courtyard smoking. Suddenly I heard someone call out, Yigi. Looking up, I saw Feng Ling sitting on the second-floor windowsill. He asked, Yagi, if I jump from here, will you catch me? I almost swallowed my cigarette. I pointed at him and said, don't move. Wait for me to come up. I ran upstairs and pulled him off the ledge, sweating bullets. Before I could scold him, Feng Ling threw his arms around my waist, holding me tightly. 142 days, he said. Yagi, it's been 142 days since you last came to see me. My throat tightened. Sorry, I've been busy. I had been busy. But I was also intentionally avoiding him. Yage, if only my legs worked, he said, his warm tears soaking into my clothes. Then I wouldn't have to just sit here waiting for you. I could be like my brother, able to reach for you. I felt uncomfortably warm and started to push him away. Young master let go, but Feng Ling's warm hand slipped under my shirt, pressing against my lower back. He whispered, Yage, I can do what Feng Cheng does. I can do it too. Care about me too. Then it hit me, something wasn't right. My body was heating up unnaturally, and I realized I didn't even have the strength to push Feng Ling away. I'd been so tense earlier that I hadn't noticed, but now I could smell something faintly off in the room. Judging by the way I felt, it was probably some kind of aphrodisiac. Feng Ling trailed a line of damp kisses down my abdomen, his hands trembling, his tears falling. Don't push me away, Yagi, please. I grabbed his hand, about to say something, when the door burst open. Feng Cheng stood there, grabbing my arm and pulling me behind him. He landed a punch square on Feng Ling's face. Feng Ling was yanked out of his wheelchair and thrown to the ground as Feng Cheng raised his foot to kick him. Feng Cheng, I shouted, grabbing his arm to stop him. Feng Cheng froze, his leg hovering in the air. Without turning to look at me, he said, Gee, could you stop protecting him in front of me? He glanced sideways, his eyes red. I won't beat him anymore. Just, please stop playing the hero for someone else, okay? I was too overwhelmed to even respond to his nonsense. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed his wrist, panting, Call a doctor and get me a shot. Feng Cheng didn't say a word. He just picked me up and walked out. Behind us, Feng Ling screamed, Don't go. Yuan Yi, you're not allowed to leave with him. 9. I still had some sense left. I knew what Feng Cheng was planning. Word by word, I told him, Feng Cheng, get me a doctor. I am the doctor, Feng Cheng replied. By the time we got to his room, I was already burning up. When Feng Cheng leaned in to kiss me, I turned the tables, pinning him against the door. My fingers threaded through his hair, forcing his head back as I claimed his lips. It was like Feng Cheng was on something too. He was more out of control than I was. He tore at my clothes, kissing my ears, my neck, my collarbones. Gay, I missed you so much, he murmured. We were like two wild animals, trying to devour each other. We didn't even make it to the bed. The next morning, I couldn't even find the buttons from my shirt. Our clothes were scattered from the doorway to the windowsill, and the room was a mess. Feng Cheng was nowhere to be seen. I stood by the window, lit a cigarette, and checked my phone when it buzzed. It was a message from Second Uncle Feng. Come to the third-floor ancestral hall. In the hall dedicated to Guan Yu, Feng Cheng was kneeling straight-backed on the floor. Second Uncle sat on a nearby sofa, a cane in his hand. You fought your brother, he said. Is that what a big brother should do? Brother? Feng Cheng sneered. You seem to forget my mom only gave birth to me. Second Uncle Feng lowered his eyes and said firmly, If you won't apologize, then you'll take the punishment. He handed me the cane and said, Do it. I hesitated. Second Uncle last night. This isn't about last night, he said. Do it. I looked down and said, Yes. No need to explain. Second Uncle Feng already knew everything. After all, this was the Feng family. He knew exactly what happened last night. He just wanted to scold Feng Cheng, defend Feng Ling, and remind me who was in charge. 100 lashes. Feng Cheng didn't even flinch, didn't let out a sound. By the time it was over, I was sweating more than he was. He struggled to his feet, leaning on me as he looked at Second Uncle. Are we done? Can I leave now? I helped him out of the hall, neither of us speaking. At the third-floor corner, he suddenly pushed me against the wall. His face close to mine, he whispered in a hoarse voice, Gee, how about I buy you a cane? Next time I step out of line, you can whip me. Flushing red, he added quietly, Just now knowing it was you hitting me, it felt really good. I said, Feng Cheng, don't push it. 10. After helping Feng Cheng back to his room, my phone buzzed again. I tightened my grip on the phone, lingering outside the study for a moment before stepping in. Weren't you just saying you two weren't close? Feng Ji was leaning against the balcony. He beckoned me over with a slight motion. Come here. I walked over. Feng Ji tilted his head, reached out, and brushed aside my collar, running a finger over the faint bruises on my neck. He practically chewed you up. Why is it okay for Feng Cheng but not for Feng Ling? Feng Ling had slipped me that drug, but I ended up sleeping with Feng Cheng, so he knew everything that happened last night. I replied, Last night was just an accident. Half of Feng Cheng's looks came from Feng Ji. 20 years younger, Feng Ji probably resembled Feng Cheng now. But at his age, Feng Ji's sharpness had been tempered, wrapped in a layer of gentleness. Underneath it all, though, He was still crazy. Ah Yi, 3 years ago, you told me you were only here as a bodyguard. Feng Ji's hand slid upward, cupping my jaw. And now you're sleeping with my son. Feng Ji's preferences knew no bounds, his lovers numerous. 3 years ago, in a drunken haze, he had asked me, "Want to give it a try with me?" I turned him down. A lover was a lover, a bodyguard was a bodyguard. Feng Ji kept these distinctions very clear. He didn't need me specifically. He had merely shown a passing interest. Sitting in his position, he could have anyone he wanted. He had no need to force anyone. When I said I was there as a bodyguard, he let me be just that. He never brought it up again. But now here I was, right under his nose, sleeping with Feng Cheng. That no longer counted as just being a bodyguard. I said, "Second master, I can resign." Feng Ji smiled faintly and released me. "Don't be silly. You've been with me for years. If you want to leave, I have to be willing to let you go." The Feng family didn't run a clean business. Once you stepped in, you couldn't step out. I understood that. "Keep an eye on Feng Cheng for me," Feng Ji said, straightening my collar. "Don't let him get himself killed. I still need him to carry on the family line." Lowering his eyes, he added, "You two can mess around, but don't take it too seriously." 11. Although Feng Ji claimed he wanted me to watch over Feng Cheng, he sent Feng Cheng away for a month while dragging me to various social engagements. In one dimly lit private room, I drank until my head spun. Feng Ji patted the leg of a young man seated on him and motioned toward me. The young man glanced at me, then walked over and asked, "Sir, would you like some water?" I lazily opened one eye to look at him, then glanced at Feng Ji. He sat in the shadows, his face obscured by smoke, his cold gaze fixed on me. He didn't trust me. He was probably worried I'd cling to Feng Cheng, so he was throwing some bait my way. I dropped my gaze and accepted the water from the young man's hand. I drank quickly, water spilling down my chin. The young man leaned in as if to lick it off. I blocked his mouth and asked, "Did you just kiss someone else?" Someone else obviously meant only one person. The young man's eyes widened. "You're saying I'm dirty?" I gave a small smile and said politely, "Sorry, kind of." The young man stomped his foot, pouting as he ran off to complain to Feng Ji. I was too tipsy to care. No matter his looks or his build, he couldn't compare. Damn it, Feng Cheng had spoiled my tastes. After enduring a few more rounds of drinks, I excused myself to the restroom, where I promptly vomited. When I looked up after washing my face, Feng Ji was standing behind me, holding out a handkerchief. I stared at his elegant hand through the mirror and didn't take it. Feng Ji stepped closer, cupping my face in his hand. His gaze lowered as he wiped my face himself. I flinched, but he said calmly, "Don't move." The handkerchief brushed across my forehead, down my brows, the bridge of my nose. "Yan said you thought he was dirty." Yan must have been that young man. I didn't respond. "Is it because he's dirty or because he kissed me? Are you saying I'm dirty?" I dodged the question, simply saying, "Second master, keep wiping and my face will fall off." Feng Ji let out a small laugh and tossed the handkerchief onto the sink. Then he shoved me, pinning me against the sink. One hand gripped my neck while the other reached for my belt. I didn't resist. If Feng Ji truly wanted me, my skills couldn't stop him. "Second master, do you know why Feng Cheng has been working so desperately hard since coming back?" Feng Ji remained silent, focused on unfastening my pants. "It's because he wants your approval, wants you to notice him. 5 years ago, you shoved Feng Cheng's head down and sent him abroad, but kept Feng Ling here. At that time, Hangzhou was dangerous, the power dynamics shifting. You couldn't protect both sons, so you had to choose one to keep safe while the other fended for himself. You gave up on Feng Cheng, chose Feng Ling. You wanted Feng Ling to be your heir, but things didn't go as planned. You couldn't keep him safe. He was captured, crippled. He could no longer be the heir. You had no choice but to bring Feng Cheng back. If Feng Ling hadn't been crippled, Feng Cheng would never have returned, would he? After spending 4 years with the Feng family, I'd heard enough whispers to piece things together. Feng Ji looked up, his cold gaze meeting mine through the mirror. I stared back. I figured it out. Don't you think Feng Cheng figured it out too? Feng Cheng knows, but he's also foolish. Even now, he still thinks that if he proves himself, you'll look at him differently. At least, treat him like your son. Feng Ji's brow twitched ever so slightly. No matter how distant a father and son were, blood ties were still blood ties. I continued, "Second master, I could sleep with you tonight. I could sleep with anyone. You could use me like a weapon, have me kill Feng Cheng. I wouldn't care, because you don't care if he lives or dies." Feng Ji's hand tightened on my neck. "Yuan Yi, don't take yourself too seriously." "I'm not the one taking myself seriously," I said, prying his hand away. You're the one who does. I stepped back, lowering my head to fix my pants. When you sent Feng Cheng abroad, did he beg you not to? Feng Ji's eyes wavered, a brief flicker of doubt. I pulled away from him and smoothed my clothes. Did he get down on his knees? Was that the first time he ever bowed his head and pleaded with you not to send him away? Feng Ji didn't respond. After 4 years by his side, I recognized his silence as confirmation. It felt like a knife to the heart, not sharp, but enough to irritate, leaving me wanting to punch him. I took a deep breath, pushed him away, and couldn't resist throwing in one last jab. No wonder when I first met Feng Cheng, he told me his parents were dead. I mean, what's the difference, really? 12, I had pushed Feng Ji's buttons too far, and, in return, he sent me on assignment after assignment, sending me all over the place for 3 months. By the time I got back to Hangzhou, I was a shade darker from all the travel. I had just gotten off the plane when Feng Ji sent me a message. Tinyuan Residence, room 601. Pick up Feng Cheng. The private room was a mess. No one even glanced my way when I opened the door. I had to scan the room twice before spotting Feng Cheng. He was slumped on the sofa, a bottle of liquor in hand, with 2 young men flanking him, both feeding him drink after drink. He drank whatever they offered. When the bottle was empty, one of the boys started unbuttoning Feng Cheng's shirt, leaning in as if to kiss him. Feng Cheng leaned back and stayed still. I loosened my tie and walked over. One of the boys had his whole body pressed against Feng Cheng, cupping his face and coaxing. Yes, I'm your brother. I'm right here. Want me, Feng Xiao? I let out a bitter laugh. You're his brother? Then, what does that make me? While the boy was stunned, I pushed him aside, knelt on one knee at the edge of the sofa, leaned against the backrest, and lightly patted Feng Cheng's face. Second master sent me to get you. Are you coming with me? Feng Cheng's gaze roamed over my face, and he reached up to touch it. His voice was a quiet, broken murmur. Why don't you want me anymore, bro? He was out of it. The alcohol in this place was likely laced with something. I picked him up, carrying him out. After settling him into the car, Feng Cheng suddenly grabbed my collar, pulling me down. His lips pressed against mine. I froze for a moment, then pressed his head back and kissed him harder. This brat, putting himself out there like that? Anyone would have been happy to take advantage of him. Screw it, I might as well kiss him until he's completely mine. Feng Cheng turned and pushed me down against the car seat. Eyes closed, he kissed me deeply, moving from my lips to my throat, trailing lower. He was crying, calling my name, tears streaming down his face. He looked so miserable. But there was no guarantee he even knew it was me he was kissing. If I hadn't shown up, he might have climbed into bed with anyone tonight. He would have kissed them, crying, calling out my name. Could I blame him for it? Could I say he didn't love me? This was exactly what terrified me the most. Feng Cheng was too reckless. He was too extreme, never valuing himself. If I didn't keep an eye on him, he didn't care how much he destroyed himself. Being with someone like him was exhausting. I'd constantly be on edge, terrified that if I looked away, something terrible would happen to him. Feng Cheng was beyond saving. 13, it was the middle of the night, and I didn't take Feng Cheng home. I booked a hotel room instead, deciding to make do for the night. The next morning I woke early. After washing up, I saw Feng Cheng still asleep. I planned to leave quietly. But as I reached for my phone at the bedside table, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me back onto the bed. His body was hot against mine, his head buried against my neck. Bro, he whispered, did you and Feng Ji? I froze completely. Why would Feng Cheng ask that? I didn't even have time to answer before he suddenly bit the side of my neck. I gasped sharply. Tell me no, he begged. Even if it's a lie, just say no. His neck was wet with tears. Please, say no and I'll convince myself to forgive you. I sighed. Who told you this? Feng Cheng stiffened, then abruptly rolled out of bed and started putting on his clothes. He even grabbed the gun tucked at my back. Before he could leave, I grabbed his arm. Where are you going? His expression was cold, his voice flat. To kill Feng Ji. My temples throbbed. I didn't sleep with Feng Ji. Just tell me who started this rumor, can you? Feng Cheng's eyes reddened. Stop lying. He pulled a photo out of his pocket and tossed it at me. It was taken in the club restroom. Feng Ji had me pinned and was unbuckling my belt. To anyone looking at it, it seemed obvious what was happening. In the photo, someone had already scribbled over Feng Ji's head. Not many people could have taken this picture. If it wasn't Feng Ji, it had to be Feng Ling. Feng Ji wouldn't risk starting a feud with his own son. That left only. Feng Ling gave you this? Feng Cheng glared at me, his anger and hurt palpable. I almost laughed. He looked so betrayed, like some kind of pitiful fool. Relax. Nothing happened. My pants didn't even come off. Then, what's the story with this picture? I couldn't give him a straight answer, so I just said, "It's what it is." Feng Cheng clearly wasn't satisfied. He stared at me with wide, tear-filled eyes. "You're terrible. You won't even bother explaining anymore. You don't love me anymore." I let out a bitter laugh. "Feng Cheng, who's the real piece of shit here?" The anger I'd been holding back suddenly erupted. "You're the one who lied to me, you left without a word, and now you come back and won't let me go. Feng Ling handed you a photo, and instead of asking me, you ran off to get drunk. If I hadn't picked you up last night, you wouldn't even know who was in your bed this morning. Thank God I don't love you anymore. If I still did, you'd tear my heart out and feed it to the dogs." By the time I finished, my eyes stung. Feng Cheng panicked, fumbling to hug me. "No, bro, I wasn't drunk. I knew it was you. As soon as you came in last night, I saw you. I was pretending. I wanted you to be jealous. Don't be mad. I'm yours. I'd never let anyone else touch me. I'm not stupid. I can tell who's kissing me. If I ever dared to let someone else into my bed, you'd leave me for good." God damn it. That made me even angrier. I punched him, knocked him to the floor, and kicked him once for good measure. "Is this fun for you, you idiot?" 14. When I finished the task and returned to the Feng residence, I reported back to Feng Ji. In the study, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Ah Yi, go oversee the project in Lucheng." I nodded. "Thank you, Second Master." As I was leaving, he added, "And try not to come back to Hangzhou." I agreed. On my way out, I passed through the garden. Feng Ling was perched on the second-floor windowsill, calling out to me timidly, "Yagi." I turned. He gave me a pale, delicate smile. "If I jumped from here, would you catch me?" I looked at him for a long moment and replied, "Feng Ling, no one can catch you. That's your life to bear." I turned and walked away. On the breeze, I caught a faint, "I'm sorry." I knew Feng Ling didn't truly care about me. He simply saw me as something that belonged to him. And what's his, he refused to share with Feng Cheng. 15 Lucheng wasn't very big, much smaller than Hangzhou. Feng Ji had acquired several factories here, and I was sent to oversee them as general manager. It was a promotion of sorts. When Feng Cheng showed up, I was standing shirtless among the workers, carrying heavy loads alongside them, just to pass the time. "Feng Ji sent you here to manage the factory, not to become a laborer," he snapped. I didn't respond, just wiped the sweat off my face with a towel. Feng Cheng started nitpicking everything in my office. The desk was too plain, the chair too uncomfortable, even the small decorations on the shelf weren't up to his standards. He criticized every detail. It was so absurd I didn't even get angry. I just washed my face and finally asked, "What exactly do you want?" "I want you to come back to Hangzhou with me," Feng Cheng said firmly. "I'm not going," I replied. He bristled. "Look at the life you're living here. You were pale to start with, and now you're so tanned I can barely recognize you. Standing in front of me, you look like a human chocolate bar." He ran a hand over my buzz cut, like he was mourning it. "You shaved your head too. That old style looked so good on you. Put you in a field now, and I wouldn't be able to tell you apart from the farmers." I had to fight back a laugh. "Come on, young master," I said. "This is who I really am. I've always been part of this world, living this kind of life. Wearing a suit and tie doesn't make me the same as you. I'm already lucky to have a manager's position here. It's more than most people get. I'm comfortable here, more so than I ever was at the Feng family home. I've spent half my life working through storms, and all I want now is a peaceful, stable life. Hangzhou's too big for me. It doesn't suit me." Feng Cheng stopped his tirade. After a long silence, he lowered his gaze and said softly, "But I miss you so much." I swallowed hard and turned away. "You should move on. Second Master still expects you to carry on the family name." Feng Cheng looked up, his gaze dark and intense. "Sometimes I just want to kiss that mouth of yours until you can't say anything anymore." Then he leapt forward, kissing me fiercely. "Carry on the family name? I'll make sure Feng Ji never has any heirs." I grabbed his hair, dodging his lips. "I thought you said I look like a chocolate bar." Feng Cheng started unbuttoning my pants. "I love chocolate. Now give me a bite." 16 Feng Cheng once told me that the day his mother was captured by Feng Ji's enemies, Feng Ji had been waiting outside his mistress's delivery room for Feng Ling's birth. By the time Feng Ji went to rescue her, it was already too late. His mother was dead. Feng Cheng hated Feng Ji, and Feng Ji didn't seem too fond of Feng Cheng either. Feng Cheng clung to me tightly, holding on as if his life depended on it. "Bro," he said, "nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, nobody protects me except you." Before I met you, no one ever told me to value myself. No one told me how to love anyone else. I was so immature, wasn't I? I'm sorry, bro. I just wanted so badly to prove that you'd always love me. His temples were damp, his voice like a half-asleep murmur. Bro, please don't leave me. Don't give up on me. Show me how to love, and I'll try my best to learn. I'll learn from you how to love you. By the time he cried himself to sleep, the pillow was soaked through. His whole body seemed to be made of water. I stroked his hair, held him close, and sighed. All right, go to sleep, crybaby. The next morning, Feng Ji called Feng Cheng back to Hangzhou. I stayed in Liucheng, drinking tea, playing cards, watching the sunset, living the life of an old man. When Feng Cheng had time, he'd come to Liucheng. When he came, I'd keep him company, listen to him talk. When he left, I wouldn't stop him. I'd just keep drinking tea, playing cards, watching the sun go down. Once, as he was leaving, Feng Cheng said, Bro, I feel like you don't love me the way you used to. I could see the disappointment in his eyes. He was 26 now, yet he still looked at me with the same intense, nervous gaze he had at 18. I knew what he wanted to hear, but I didn't say it because I was scared. If I gave him too much, he'd waste it again. I couldn't afford to be wasted anymore. But I wanted to be honest. I said, Feng Cheng, it's not that I don't love you anymore. It's that you've scared me. You're so desperate for proof that I love you, you've never stopped to think that I might feel unsure too. Feng Cheng looked at me for a moment, then pressed his forehead to mine, our noses almost touching. It's okay, bro. Don't worry. You don't have to love me all that much. As long as you're here, I'll do the loving for the both of us. Eventually, Feng Cheng had a falling out with Feng Ji. It happened after Feng Cheng dragged me to another country and got us officially married. Feng Ji called in the middle of the night. Feng Cheng stood on the balcony, taking the scolding. Feng Ji's voice carried faintly through the quiet night. You can keep him if you want, but why go so far as to get married? Feng Cheng replied, What kind of decent couple doesn't get married? Feng Ji was furious. He's a man. Dad, he's an old-fashioned guy. Without that piece of paper, he won't feel secure, Feng Cheng explained. This isn't about being a man or a woman. I love him, and I want him to feel safe. That's all there is to it. You've never loved anyone, and you've never been loved. You don't understand. I heard Feng Ji shouting even louder after that. The night was so still that Feng Ji's outburst seemed even more explosive. But after event, he let it go. Later, Feng Ji called me. Ah Yi, you've really got some nerve. Feng Cheng's only ever bowed his head to me twice in his life, and both times were because of you. If it weren't to protect you, he'd never call me Dad again. I chuckled softly, squinting at the horizon, and said quietly, I don't have any special skills, Second Master. You just don't get it? Feng Ji didn't reply. When I looked up, Feng Cheng was on the balcony, fussing over the 2 nearly dead plants I had. I called out, Feng Cheng. He turned his head toward me. I said, I love you. And just like that, his eyes lit up as bright as when he was 18.